to the East region, where UConn continues to reign supreme, complete domination. The Northwestern game in the second round was nowhere near as close as the final score made it look. It was a complete smashing right out of the gates. Now, Matthew, a rematch of the 2023 title game for the Huskies. San Diego State, this is one taking place in Boston. A reminder on the travel here for San Diego State ended really late against in their previous round game in Spokane.
Yeah.
Back to San Diego, now across the country for a Thursday game, not a Friday game. The early tip, kind of a tough turnaround for them. Is that something we care about here, or is this March Madness? These are 21-year-olds who gives a crap. Just bet the actual game. What do you think?
No,
For the record, spread is UConn minus 10.5, total 135.5 as we record this at BetMGM.
yeah. Well, actually, Jim, I'd argue UConn has the. I mean, I've heard Dan Hurley's comments, but just the outrageous hand that they were dealt, having to go a whole bus ride from New York to Boston. So
Spare
yeah,
me.
just a tough draw for old Danny. I love Hurley just continuing to warp his team's mind into the disrespect because you have
Yeah,
an
has
awesome,
to. Yeah.
talented, well-coached team, and this mindset of like legitimately we're the underdog. It's just it's an unbeatable comment. It is exactly why they were dominant last year. It's exactly why they've been dominant this season. Just a couple of factoids for you, very basic, and there's some overlap between these, so I apologize. But 11-3 against the spread non-conference last 2 years. UConn 11-2 against the spread on neutral sites. You get them out of like the home road, especially on the road in the Big East against coaches that know their stuff a little better. They're mortalish in that playground, but like outside of that, they're just a dominant force. And I'm going to continue to hold on to this belief that last year will be a precursor to what we see again this season. I officially took the 10.5 11, Jim. I think they lay the absolute wood to the Aztecs. As big as that number looks, Kai, you could argue it's a major tax given KenPom has it 8 and the Aztecs have looked pretty good so far. I mean, Jalen Leddy's an absolute force up front, but I mean, he hasn't seen anything like Donovan Clingan or Samson Johnson in those dogs. So I think UConn hands it to him. I really do. Plain and simple.
Another team like Bama that's played 2 double-digit seeds, and now it's like, hey, here's the best team in the tournament.
Here's a real team. Welcome to your first test. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about. Now, last year, San Diego State did the same thing. They beat 2 double-digit seeds, and they beat Alabama, the 1 seed. UConn's better than Alabama was last season. This team doesn't have a weakness. They really almost look bored playing offense. They're so fantastic. It's just every single way you want to put it, they can score. San Diego State's defense, obviously elite, but they struggle to score at times. If they're not getting stuff from Ledee consistently, which they usually have this season, they can stagnate on the offensive end. Both teams are pretty balanced in terms of style. UConn, one of the best cutting teams in the country. Just the play designs, they've been all over the internet. Obviously, fantastic coaching staff, ball screens, transition. They excel in everything. San Diego State, weirdly, weak against cuts this season from a synergy perspective. If you just zero in on their cutting defense, a little bit surprising there. However, clearly a good defensive team in transition with ball screens. San Diego State has to play through Ledee in the post. That just is really tough to do against Clingan and Johnson that Matt mentioned. I think that's the matchup advantage right there for UConn. And frankly, Jim, I don't want to bet against UConn. So I agree it seems a little bit high, but I would lean towards UConn or just stay away.
Yeah, this is probably lame to hear from like you're looking for nuanced betting angles, but to me, it's like UConn just isn't measured properly. I mean, they had stints with Castle out, stints with Clingan out. I don't think they're really even where they at number 1 in KenPom. They might not even be measured properly there. They went on a 16-2 run against San Diego State in the title game last year in the first like 10 minutes, pulled away, were up double digits the entire way. I guess San Diego State cut it to 8 with 5 minutes left, but it never really felt super in doubt there. And I kind of think we get something similar here. UConn top 5 on both ends of the floor in 2-point percentage. It's just like a completely indomitable style of play. The quality of the shots they get, the unselfish ball movement, like the fact that Spencer can put up 10 assists when he's supposed to be like an off-screen shooting guy is absurd. They have a total wealth of options, wealth of talent. And I just don't think this San Diego State team is the one that's going to stop that run. So I'm riding with these boys. UConn, I think they continue to lay the wood all the way through this tournament. No real take on total or props here for me. It's just like a simple UConn smash, however they want to do it.
I did kind of break up my bet into first half full game. So I took some first half and some full game. A little bit of foot off gas late against Northwestern. I just don't think you see that here in the bigger stage, farther in the tournament, the first game after the prior weekend. Like I think they got full juice going all the way through, where you could argue maybe in the second half against Northwestern they had a little bit of fatigue on this. Whatever, I don't know. It's a smash all the way through. I just think first half probably has a smidge more of value than full game, given how big it is of a number 11.
Yeah, and if you care about that travel angle, it's probably going to show up in the first half, as Matt's
Yeah,
talking
it's a good
about,
point.
like
It's more sluggish
San Jose
early.
State. Yep.